Ladies and gentlemen, we are here with episode number 12 of our Eibar career mode. So this is going to be, I guess, the first full episode of the second season here for us. A lot of this is going to be a lot of transfer business stuff that I was going through. Definitely wanted to show you guys who I was bringing in and whatnot. So a little bit of gameplay. Obviously, we ended the last episode in the semi-final of our International European Cup, preseason cup that we were in. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys the result of that one. Ruben Neves manages to score in the 69th minute to give us the victory and move on into the final. So at this point, I'm happy with how the team played. I think I managed to get about 3 million to this point out of the preseason tournament, and it was going to allow me to do as much business as I wanted to do this season. So you guys are going to see that I do go ahead and confirm the Douglas transfer into the squad, so he'll be readily available for us here in the next game. I do sit him, I believe, for this game. So we go in, actually I may put him in the squad, thinking about it now, just so that I can go ahead and give him a little bit of gameplay time. But you're going to see the changes that I make. I do bring in Douglas. Definitely going to be a good option for us. Obviously, we didn't have a right back last year, and we had, I believe Lilo was playing in that position last year. So definitely going to be good to have an actual right back in that position. Obviously, we have plenty of left backs to still make moves. I am going to be trying to get rid of one of my left backs this episode and in this transfer window because I do have so many of them. As you guys are going to see, I went after a couple center backs here. Denayer from Manchester City. They wanted about 12 mil for him, so I said I'd give him 9. And then went ahead and tried that. I wasn't really paying attention to his wages. There was no way I was ever going to pay him 70k a week. Whereas Riedewald is only 30k a week. And, you know, I guess going after the Manchester City center back, I guess the idea was to try to sign him on a little less wages by giving him more gameplay time than he was going to get at Manchester City, but I think he was a little too high rated for me to pull that deal off. I also try to go after Ingles. I really at first just wanted to try to get rid of Luna. Like I said, I wanted to get rid of one of my left backs, but also try to bring in a quality center back, and he's definitely one of them, but they did reject that bid, so I just kind of moved on. Still wanted to bring in a few players. As you see, Douglas signs competition for Lilo. I don't really know how much Lilo is going to play. As you guys see here, I did play him at center back in that last game because of me only having one signed center back at this point. Just kind of going through the squad a little bit, checking out my players, see what position I need the most right now before we move forward in the transfer window. Just kind of figuring out, you know, what players should I bring in, what players should I just kind of ignore right now and worry about later. After I make, I believe, one more signing as we go into this, the last preseason match, I realized that, you know, I don't have too much money to just keep buying players, so what I do is go out and try to get a few players on 2-year loans, so we'll kind of get into that a little bit later in the episode. Coming into the final match of the preseason cup, we come up against this team. Didn't really play that well. As you guys can see, Iheanacho managed to grab 1 goal, but we did lose the final 2-1, so we don't get any transfer budget for that. The board was happy with our performance. It grew a little bit for the club, so everyone's happy with the performance. Like I said, I wasn't really determined to win it. I was more focused on just trying to get a little bit more transfer budget for the season. As you guys can see here, I try to kind of sign Denayer on a little bit lesser of a contract so that I can actually afford him. Like I said, realistically, I don't think this deal is ever going to go through. It was just me kind of hoping that he wasn't happy at Manchester City and I could pull him. So I kind of try to play with the budget a little bit, but at the end of the day, it doesn't work out for me. And so I kind of focus more of my energy on the Ajax Riedewald center back. He definitely gives me a good option at center back, and I'm really excited to bring him into the squad. I still need to look for one more center back at this point, which is why I was trying so hard to try to bring in Denayer. I just kind of, you know, wanted to bring in another center back that was kind of established. I believe he was at about a 74 rating at this point. Not 100% sure, but potential wise, I think that's about where he probably would have lined up. So Denayer would have been a good option for me, but instead of bringing him in, I did bring in Riedewald, and then I try to kind of bring in a couple other players on loan for that center back position, as you guys are going to see a little bit later in the episode. But I kind of wanted to talk about my, I guess, aspirations for this season. Obviously, losing a few players here and there from the previous season, I really wasn't sure how my team was going to line up again. And I don't think anybody in the league really knew where I was going to line up again, because there were a lot of players that I lost after last season. But everything seems to be coming together pretty well, and I think we can definitely push for that top 6 to top 4 placing. I believe the board still wants us to just get mid-table and make the round of 16 in the cup. So as you guys see here, I'm going to try to sign Hajrovic back again, but his asking price is around 10 to 12 million. So not really a budget that I was willing to spend on one player. So I did try to get him on a 2-year loan and then try to buy him for 10 million at the end, but they weren't really interested on letting him go out on loan, which I understand because he's a good player. So that deal is not going to go through. Thought about trying to buy him straight up with using, you know, some of my other players I had in the squad, like Kappa and stuff like that, just to try to bring him in, but at the end of the day, it just didn't work out. So I try to go after a little bit cheaper options and still good players nonetheless. So you guys are going to see here in a little bit who I end up bringing in. We definitely have good striker options this season. I'm happy with Iheanacho. He's been playing well. The entire team's been playing well, to be fair. Ryan Gauld and Neves obviously still on their loan for the club, so they're playing well and definitely progressing well, so their teams will be happy. Probably won't be signing either one of them after they're done with their loan just because of how expensive they are. So at the end of the day, it is what it is. You guys are going to see here, like I said, I'm trying to just play around with some of the players, see who I can try to convince them to give me Hajrovic for. Kappa plus 3 million here and there, like some of these deals. Just kind of trying to work the money I have left to try to sign a big name player, or quote unquote a big name player. I do go ahead and finish up the transfer for Riedewald. 9 million, you know, 30k a week, 35k a week, sorry. Just a good deal all around for a 19-year-old center back that I believe we're going to see here in a second. I think he's at 73 or 74 overall right now, with the potential to be in about the mid-80s, I believe, after training. So should be a good pickup for us all the way around. And you know, if we do end up selling him in the future, we're definitely going to make a pretty good profit off of him. A little bit of training here, just trying to bring my players up. Iheanacho and Brown coming up pretty quick. In the next training session, they'll both go up, I believe. So, you know, and also in this transfer window, I also remember that there are stuff on the market for progressing your players and training your players. So, you know, like I said earlier in this series, I'm not going to be using anything that enhances my transfer budget. I just feel like that's kind of cheap a little bit. So, but what I will do, just because, you know, although the training mode, in my opinion, is a little cheesy, I still need a little bit of help, and it just helps to get those training sessions up and at the best place possible, because I don't really want to go out of my way to play the training sessions. I will every once in a while, but just not that often. And if I played all my training sessions, I'd probably get A's and B's on every transfer or on every training session, and my players would progress more. But since I want to just go ahead and get them out of the way, I simulate them more often than not, which means my players aren't progressing as much as they could. So what I do is go into the marketplace and then try to get in, you know, those little training booster things for your team. I believe one little transfer boost or training boost is for 5 training sessions. So 1 training session, 5 players. So it works out for me pretty well. I use it on a couple of my youth squad players that I just kind of want to develop before I sign them to an actual contract. You guys are going to see here, you know, me just kind of adding players to loan list and transfer list, just trying to bring in any last minute money. Right here, I go after Miyaichi, really fantastic FIFA player in my opinion. Obviously ex-Arsenal player, never really made it into the squad, and we actually ended up selling him off last year, I believe. At 23, still time to grow. He doesn't really have that high of a potential. He is one of the fastest players in the game, playing at that left wing position, he originally naturally played in the right wing position, so I do play him at both the left and right wing this season. You guys see here both my keeper win up and my youth squad player. This was one of them, I believe, that I used one of the boost in, which is why that youth player came up so quickly, which is definitely going to be really helpful for us. And I may do a few training sessions where I just have youth squad players and use those boosts and just let them grow as fast as possible before I sign into an actual contract, because I definitely want to be getting them into the senior squad as soon as possible. So I play with the transfer budget a little bit more before I go out and try to pick up any more players. At this point, I was just kind of looking at what players I could bring in before the start of the season, just going through loan listed players and transfer listed players after I secure this Miyaichi deal. I just kind of wanted to bring somebody in. I didn't know who it was going to be. I was just kind of like trying to think of somebody. Who could I bring in for, a 1-2 year loan, maybe even buy the player. I believe I look at the Premier League the most, which I think comes after this next game, because it takes me a while to actually finalize this deal. I do sell off Luna, so he is out of the squad. He just never really impressed me that first season. He had a couple good games here and there, but he seemed to play out of position more than I liked him to. So I do go ahead and get him out of the squad, bring in Miyaichi. Pretty good, I wouldn't say switch, but counter buy, I guess, to make sure that my squad is still pretty strong. And he's definitely going to give me a lot of creativity in my gameplay, especially with Iheanacho having a little bit of pace himself and a little bit of height. I'm trying to get his heading a little bit better, because with a player like Miyaichi, crosses are going to be happening all the time, and not always can you throw a ball in with triple tapping and keeping it on the ground. So definitely want to make sure that we are heading the ball as much as possible this season. I definitely want to try to get Iheanacho to top goal scorer after I lost Hajrovic, my previous top goal scorer. So a couple more trading sessions here. Like I said, Iheanacho is my big focus right now. I would just want to get him as high ranked as possible. Most people, get him to about 80 rated by the end of the second season, so that's definitely where I want to be. In the game, I noticed that it says a mid-table season for Eibar. Go ahead and click on it, and it says Eibar is going to finish in 18th place. And I'm like, really? Okay, I know that I lost a lot of players in the previous season, but Borja isn't necessarily my best player. I don't think he's my key player for this season. I think we definitely have a lot of players that are definitely going to make or break our season, but we'll definitely far exceed 18th place. I can guarantee you guys that. We should be pushing, like I said, for top 6, if not top 4. I do kind of play around with the lineup a little bit here, because I guess Douglas had picked up a red card at the end of Barcelona's last season, so he was not able to play in the first game of this season against Sporting Eon. So I do have to play with that double left back idea again. We do get Riedwald in for his first game for the squad, and definitely excited to go ahead and get the season started. I kind of wanted to keep the highlights limited in this episode just because there was a lot of transfer stuff going on, and I know this episode is going to be long regardless of how I edited it. So wanted to make sure I got in the gameplay, but also wanted to focus a lot on the transfer window, because I think that's the biggest and most important part of this season for us, at least these next couple episodes. The transfer window should be ending, I believe, in this episode. I think it ends a couple days after this game, actually. So as you guys see here, I got a free kick at the end of the half, and it kind of made me realize I don't have a free kick taker anymore. Hajrovic was my free kick taker. So definitely gonna have to try to figure out who my next free kick taker is gonna be, and if I need to sign somebody in the future to kind of take over that position, and I'm not sure who it's gonna be. So we are going into the half at a 0-0 draw. There were chances definitely between the two of us. Sporting Eon was playing great. I mean, they had more possession than me, I think, this entire game. I was just kind of trying to feel out the new squad, trying to figure out what players were working for me, what players weren't. As you guys see here, it was about the 60th minute. I bring on Miyaichi in that right wing spot to play on the opposite side of Inui, Japan counterparts for the squad. So wanted to get them both in. Inui still had a little bit of pace in him, whereas Kappa obviously didn't. So I knew right away that this was going to give me a really good opportunity. As you guys are going to see, I'm just going to burn with that pace with Miyaichi and manage to grab a free kick here in the 62nd minute. He's going to make an instant impact coming off of the bench. He manages to get this free kick into the box, and a beautiful header from Escalante gives us a 1-0 lead in this game, and that is actually how this game's going to end. But bringing in Miyaichi was honestly a bit of a revelation for me. I knew he was good in past FIFAs, really wasn't sure how he was in this game because nobody's been talking about him. Understandable, because he is only a 73 rated Japanese player from a little bit of a lesser known and focused on league. So it was good that I did remember him being in the ex-Arsenal squad. Wasn't able to get that crossover as well as I would have liked to get in another goal. So the game, like I said, is going to end in a 1-0 win for us. Good way to start off the season. Definitely puts me in a good and happy spot to progress in this league and definitely do as well as I can. So this isn't the end of the episode though. Like I said, we are going to kind of ride out the rest of this transfer window, make a few more signings here and there. So as this game comes to a close, like I said, after I signed Miyaichi, I knew that I really didn't have too much money left because I did have to spend a decent amount of money on him to bring him into the squad. So I was really more focused on bringing people in on loan. As you guys are going to see here, Jonathan Tah, everybody knows of this guy if you play career mode. He's a good player. He's a fantastic player. I'll go ahead and say, I'll give you a future fee of 10 million. I'll give him a 20% clean sheet bonus for a 2-year loan. I was just kind of hoping that was going to be enough to kind of pull him away. I believe he was probably about an 8 mil pickup if I were to buy him. So I figured, if I tell him I'll pay him 10 mil for him after 2 years, if I still want him, that would go well with him, and it'll go well with me because I think he's definitely going to outgrow that potential buyout clause. So we do go ahead and try to get in another center back here. Rakik, he was that big guy for everybody in the last couple FIFAs because he was playing for Manchester City. Really, obviously wasn't getting into the squad, so he wanted to get out, and he wasn't that expensive to get because it's Manchester City, and they want to focus more on their bigger name players. This deal I don't think was ever really going to go through. I think he's been at Marseille for maybe a year, so that didn't really work out for me. As you see here, they say that they're going to get back to me on the Jonathan Tah decision, and then I also get a deal in for Einrich, but I think I accepted this deal, or I counter-offered, and they ended up taking it, but they didn't actually manage to bring in the player because I think my squad was too small, and it didn't allow the deal to go through, if I remember correctly. It was either him or one other player that I was trying to sell in this window. So as we go through, like I said, I was just kind of thinking as the transfer deadline day was here, I was thinking, who could I bring in? So I went to the Premier League, looked for a bunch of loan players. Nothing was really popping out to me. And then I kind of noticed, I didn't see Leicester, Bournemouth players anywhere in the Premier League. So I was like, okay, I guess they dropped out of the Premier League. So let me go look at football, the Championship, and go ahead and look at Leicester City, go ahead and look at Bournemouth and Fulham and see who I can bring out of the squad. So, a lot of big name players. Obviously, your Jamie Vardy, 78 overall, I believe. Mahrez, fantastic young player coming out of Leicester. And I knew some of these players weren't going to want to stay in the squad. They would want to get out of the squad because they did drop a league. So I try to go after a few of them. Like I said, I go into the Fulham lineup. Main goal there was to get Moussa Dembele. Definitely a solid youth player in real life and definitely as well in the game. So was another player that I definitely wanted to go after. I just kind of wanted to look overall in that Fulham squad and see who I could bring in. But like I said, that deal for Moussa Dembele was going to be the big one for me overall in this transfer window, not just from Fulham. So I look at Ashley Richards as well. If I wanted to bring in a backup right back or anything like that, he would have been a good option for me. But we do go ahead and put in an offer for Dembele. And then we want to look at one more team out of the championship that kind of has fallen away from the Premier League, and that is Bournemouth. A lot of solid, wonderful players in this team. Joshua King is the big one. Tyrone Mings is also fantastic. Matt Ritchie was a big name that I kind of wanted to go after. A couple other players. Callum Wilson was also a good option for me that I was looking at in the squad. So good players all the way around from those leagues, and I would suggest that to you guys. If you do get in your second season, go ahead and look in the Premier League, see what teams fell out of the Premier League, and try to go after those players, because a lot of those players don't want to play in that second division again, or for the first time, and try to work their way back to the Premier League. And then Leicester, Bournemouth, and Fulham are all trying to get money right now as well. So you're going to see here, Jamie Vardy was only going to cost me 2 mil, which was a little disappointing because I didn't have the money for it, because I wanted to sign multiple players in this window. But so I do try to put in an offer for a little bit of a lesser amount. The deal, no matter how hard I tried to put it on lesser money or give them a player or anything like that, they did not want to take it. Understandable, but you know, I kind of wish I would have just went ahead and shelled out that 2.5 to 2.9 million for Vardy, because incredible player, obviously, regardless of what his overall is or what his potential is. He's just an overall goal getter, and definitely a good player that I kind of wanted to go after. So the big players that I did see that I wanted to go after were Moussa Dembele and Joshua King. Joshua King, just to bring in a little bit more pace and a backup option for in Wii, because I played him almost every game last season. He managed to handle it pretty well. He's got good stamina, so Callum Wilson, Joshua King is just going to be another option for me. Not necessarily going to get in that team that often, but maybe I'll bring him in the second half just to kind of, like I said, get a little bit more pace in the squad. Joshua King, I believe, also has a decent potential, so definitely wanted to look at him as a good option. I don't think Mahrez was really ever going to be realistic for me to bring in as much as I would like him to. It was kind of understandable why. Callum Wilson at that 8.5 mil, wasn't really sure if I was willing to pay that. He's a good player, but I just don't think he's worth that paycheck. But both Joshua King and Moussa Dembele, I think I put in offers, as you guys are going to see here in a minute, for a loan to buy option. Moussa Dembele, I may have actually just bought straight up because he was pretty cheap. A little bit cheaper than Jamie Vardy, obviously, is why I went after him, because he's a younger player. He's going to grow more, he's going to develop more, and he's already a good player as is. So definitely wanted to bring him in the squad a little bit more than Jamie Vardy. Jamie Vardy would have been great, but at the same time, want to focus a little bit more on the youth and bringing in players instead of bringing in established players that will help the squad, but not for as long, because the series at the end of the day is going to be pretty long. I plan on actually, honestly taking this probably until the end of FIFA, with other series obviously coming in around it, but he's definitely going to be, or this series rather, is definitely going to be the long-lasting one, because I want to see how often I can win this league, Champions League, any silverware, as I progress with this team. So you guys are going to see here, like I said, Joshua King. Just want to bring him on a 2-year loan, try to, let Bournemouth know if I like him after 2 years. If he does well for me, I'll go ahead and buy him off of you for about 3 million. So, like I said, Joshua King, big option for me to definitely want to bring into the squad. Tyrone Mings at that 6.5 purchase price, I really wasn't willing to go after. Matt Ritchie, same thing. Just wasn't really willing to shell out the money for him. I kind of looked at it a little bit. I was like, maybe I can bring him on loan, but his wages were a little higher than I was willing to bring in. So Moussa Dembele, that 2.4, I was like, you know what? I think this is going to be my guy. I know I've seen him in a few other career modes. I know I've seen him all over the news that every Premier League team kind of wants to go after him. Like Tottenham wants to go after him, which would be funny because, it'd kind of reunite the two Moussa Dembeles at another club. So two, not only one, clubs would actually have two Moussa Dembeles in the squad at one point. So that would have been kind of exciting to see, just as a neutral point of view. You guys are going to see here. I don't show you all the bids that I made for Jamie Vardy. I just kind of tried to play around with it and see, what could I have done to bring him in. I started off with a low ball deal of 1.5, which was never going to go through, let's be honest. But, you know, I was a little surprised with that 2.9 price tag to begin with. So, Mahrez at that 9 million, like I said earlier, it was just not in my realistic budget. So I do go ahead and bring in that Moussa Dembele deal, 2.4 million, 8K a week. Absolute steal. If you guys can get this player, absolutely do so. They will go ahead and, you know, let him out on loan. They want to see him end up in a bigger league because, you know, Fulham isn't really moving out of that championship league right now. So also going to bring in Joshua King for that 3 million. Just two solid pickups for the squad. So it's definitely going to be a good season. I'm very excited for everything coming up. So if you guys did enjoy the episode, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and make sure you don't miss the next episode and catch up on League of Champions if you guys have missed any of that. Until then, I'll see you guys later.